The movie opens with Officer Green, a police officer assigned to deliver money to Ballum, a notorious prisoner who lives like royalty behind bars. Ballum isn't your typical inmate. He's a drug lord who controls a massive drug trafficking operation, as well as human trafficking and weapon sales, all while imprisoned. He chose to stay in prison because it kept him safe from his enemies. Given his powerful position, it's no surprise that his life is constantly under threat, with assassins lining up to claim the million-dollar bounty on his head. Meanwhile, new inmates are being processed and shown to their cells, including a man named Jack Stone. Jack is infamous for killing a fellow officer during a heist. Officer Green, furious about the incident, confronts Jack, punches him, and sneers that Jack won't last long in jail. Flashing back to a week earlier, we see Jack and two accomplices robbing a bank. However, this wasn't an ordinary heist. It was a mission to gather evidence against corrupt government officials and police officers working with Ballum. After securing the money and incriminating documents, Jack tries to escape with his crew, but they are cornered by the police. Jack's two friends are gunned down, but Jack manages to fight off several officers and flees into a nearby building. As Jack attempts to escape, he is confronted by another officer. In a dramatic moment, Jack removes his mask, revealing that he is also a police officer, a fact that shocks his pursuer. Jack pushes the officer, and both fall from a great height. The officer dies on impact, but Jack survives. This wasn't a random act, though. Jack targeted the officer because he was one of the men responsible for murdering Jack's wife. Following the incident, Jack hands over the evidence he collected to a journalist named Trisha, asking her to investigate and report the corruption to the prosecutor's office. Then, Jack allows himself to be arrested, landing him in Ballum's prison. Once in prison, Jack is assigned to share a cell with another inmate named Silva. During lunch, a bully named Semyon, who also happens to be Ballum's cousin, approaches a new prisoner, demanding money for protection. When the prisoner refuses, Semyon beats him up. Semyon then turns his attention to Jack, but before he can even threaten him, Jack quickly takes him and his men down. The guards break up the fight and send Semyon and his gang to solitary confinement, while Jack calmly resumes his lunch. Later, the guards take Jack to a room where he speaks with Ballum via a surveillance camera. Ballum warns Jack not to interfere with his prison business and taunts him about his wife's murder, which Ballum and his men orchestrated. Despite the threats, Jack remains unfazed. That same night, 3 inmates sneak into Jack's cell to attack him, but Jack dispatches them with ease, all without waking his cellmate Silva. Meanwhile, Trisha continues her investigation using the files Jack provided. She's determined to expose the corruption within the police force and government. She decides to visit the prosecutor's office to share her findings. But when she arrives, the prosecutor is called away to an urgent meeting. Trisha is instructed to hand over the file to Mark, the prosecutor's assistant. Trisha was skeptical of Mark and stated that she would return to the situation to speak with the prosecutor in person. Trisha was waiting in front of the prosecutor's office to meet with him and tell him about information she had about corruption committed by members of the police force and government officials. Trisha then pays Jack a visit in jail, declaring that she is investigating the data he provided to her. After that, Jack advised Trisha to exercise caution and properly use the knowledge she had gained. After returning to his cell, Jack reflected on the wonderful times he had shared with his now-deceased wife. Following his fight with Semyon, a fellow inmate named William approached Jack and advised him to maintain a high level of alertness. On the other hand, Jack claims he has no fear of Semyon or Ballum, and then inquires about the location of Ballum's holding cell. There was an absolute need for secrecy, according to William. A large number of the wardens were also unaware of it. The scene abruptly shifts to a women's prison, where 2 inmates appear to be engaged in a physical altercation. After the guards arrived and detained the 2 female captives, one of the prisoners had her head covered and was transferred to a different location.
Poussez-vous, dégagez, dégagez! Tu auras la tête de Jack Stone.
The woman, whose name is Elena, appears to have been taken before Ballum, who was also present, along with a large number of other prisoners. It was established that Semyon and the other male detainees made a personal profit from drug sales and requested security money without Balam's knowledge. Elena was sent there at the same time because she had defeated one of Balam's most trusted female minions. Balam then held a competition in which the winner would receive $10,000 if they could kill Jack Stone and deliver the man's severed head in front of him. Following this, William proceeded to inform Jack of the situation. Without delay, the other inmates plotted against Jack to win the Balam competition. But with William's help, Jack can easily defeat all of them. On the other hand, received a call from District Attorney Johnson, who stated that a female reporter had evidence and information related to corruption committed by police officers who worked with Balam as well as government officials. Over the phone, Johnson's statement was relayed to Balam. Balam then requests that the prosecutor eliminate the female reporter while claiming that he will eliminate Jack Stone before the end of the day. When Jack is working in the laundry room, he is assaulted once more, this time by the prison warden. Jack is beaten even more severely this time. When Jack emerged from the laundry room, he was met by a swarm of inmates who were preparing to assault him. However, Jack previously stated that if $100,000 were divided by the number of convicts who would attack him, only $11,000 would be awarded to each individual. The prisoners eventually abandoned their plan to attack Jack because they decided the risks were too great, and they left the cell block. Tricia tells her friend Allison, who is in a different location, about Balam and the corrupt government officials. Meanwhile, within the women's prison, Elena makes her way to Balam's female henchman, Kat, to apologize as directed by Balam. Elena deliberately provokes Kat so that they can have another fight, during which Elena pretends to be asleep while Kat beats her up. Elena was taken to the hospital to be treated for her injuries. As soon as the nurses and doctors left the room, Elena removed her handcuffs, took some booze and narcotics, and placed them in the mop bucket that William frequently used. She then crept into the air vents to determine the location of the surveillance cameras in the room. Tricia visits Jack while he is imprisoned and informs him of the carnage carried out by Balam's troops. Elena, who was the only one who knew where the surveillance cameras were, dashed back to the hospital room to avoid being discovered. The nurse was on her way to the examination room. Elena was able to sneak back into the medical room without being discovered because William arrived so quickly and diverted the nurse's attention. While they were both looking at the situation, Jack asked William how long he had been infiltrating the organization. It has been revealed that Jack is aware that William is not a real prisoner, but rather an undercover FBI agent. William takes on the identity of a detainee on purpose to expose corrupt police officers and people associated with Balam. Elena had been William's partner throughout the entire covert operation, which had lasted 6 months. After explaining everything to Jack, they are attacked by other inmates who are also held at the facility. As a result of the incident, Jack was placed in solitary confinement, and William was summoned to Warden Bland's office. It was feared that the incident would cause a commotion. Because William attacked Balam's henchmen, Blaine threatens William with handing over some money if he wants to remain in prison. Because the prison guards cannot ensure William's safety without security money, Blaine demands that William hand over some cash. Meanwhile, Tricia makes another attempt to meet with District Attorney Johnson. However, the assistant informs her that the prosecutor is unavailable due to urgent work. Mark then proposed to Tricia that she provide the FBI with the information that he had. Balam's daughter visited him soon after, and he was moved out of his cell to make room for her. As soon as Balam steps out of his cell, William signals Elena to begin her mission. A prison warden hauled Elena away after she pretended to be asleep to escape. However, Elena and William unexpectedly render the warden unable to continue his duties. William infiltrated the control room, while Elena covertly infiltrated the CCTV monitoring room after disguising himself as a security staff member. After his daughter has vented her rage at him for being a criminal kingpin, Elena notices from the CCTV cameras that Balam will soon leave the visiting room. This will take place after his daughter has completed her tirade. When William realized this, He opened the door to the isolation room where Jack was being held and let him out. After Jack has rendered the warden helpless, William informs Jack that he and Elena will accompany Jack to Ballum's location. Following the instructions given to him by William and Elena, Jack quickly assumed the appearance of one of the prison guards. Not long after that, Warden Blaine and several other prison guards discovered that someone had broken into the room containing the CCTV cameras. Elena dashed into the ventilation duct to get away from there. When William realized there was no more time and that Ballum was approaching his cell, he opened all of the prison doors, causing chaos throughout the facility. A vicious feud erupted as a result of the convicts banding together to assault the security staff. Green is desperate and tries to flee the facility. However, Jack prevents him from doing so and instead pushes him into a crowd of other convicts, who then beat Green. William and Elena appeared to be equally preoccupied with repelling attacks from wherever they came. As Jack approaches Ballum, he is stopped by Semyon, and the two immediately resume their battle. Jack is stabbed in the stomach by a knife that Semyon manages to steal from him. Despite this, Jack was able to defeat the man. The prosecutor and Allison appear to be plotting to murder Trisha and destroy her evidence, as revealed in another scene. Allison nearly kills Trisha before an FBI agent, who happens to be Mark, intervenes to save her. As it turned out, Mark had been posing as a prosecutor's staffer and investigating corruption by District Attorney Johnson and other government officials. When William assassinates Warden Blaine and the other guards within the prison, Jack locates Ballum, and the two engage in a hand-to-hand fight. When Jack became powerless, the man remembered his deceased wife, which caused Jack to rise again, allowing him to defeat Ballum and exact revenge on him.
Il faut la tuer à cause de toi!
Soon after, the SWAT team arrived at the prison and took command of the situation. William then introduced Jack and Elena. Ballum's group had been eliminated both inside and outside the prison, and William's boss wanted to congratulate him on it. Jack also thanked them for their assistance in his retaliation. All public servants and police officers who had worked with Ballum and were found to be corrupt were eventually arrested by the FBI. Jack is taken in custody by William, who will later promote Jack to an FBI agent and make him his partner. The lesson of this film is to never be afraid to defend justice and speak the truth, as Jack and Trisha did when they unwittingly collaborated to expose official and police wrongdoing. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. You should watch the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.